You know what your problem is? You're smart. Too smart. You overthink because your mind moves at 1,000,000 miles a minute. You're sad because you're not fooled by the world like anyone else. You don't get along with most people because they don't see things the way you do. You think you're dumb because you're smart enough to know you don't know everything. Your problem is, you're too smart. And that's not a problem at all. Let me remind you, when it was hard, and you were overwhelmed, and felt afraid, and walked alone, and felt invisible, and didn't have the answers, and couldn't see the way, and wanted to give up, you kept going. The meaning of life is just to be alive. It is so plain, and so obvious, and so simple. And yet, everybody rushes around in a great panic, as if it were necessary to achieve something beyond themselves. This is the real secret of life, to be completely engaged with what you are doing in the here and now.
People who get excited about sunsets, the night sky, thunder, art, the smell of wet mud after rain, and deep conversations are my kind of people. The modern world doesn't excite me. I want trees, the scents and colors, the shifting shadows of the wood, which speaks a language only a few understand. I sometimes wish I could simply disappear in it.
In 100 years, in 2124, we will all be buried with our relatives and friends. Strangers will live in our homes which we fought so hard to build, and they will own everything we have today, including that car you spent a fortune on. Our descendants will hardly know who we were. How many of us know our grandfather's father? After our death, we will be remembered for a few years. And a few years later, our history, our photos, our deeds go into the dustbin of oblivion. We won't even be memories. Maybe if one day we stopped to analyze these questions, we would understand how ignorant and weak the dream of obtaining everything was, always having more and more, without having time for the things that are really worthwhile in this life. I'd change all that to live and enjoy those walks I've never taken, those ungiven hugs and kisses to our children and our loves. That is what life is all about.
Never worry about losing a friend, because a real friend can never be lost.
But the most beautiful things in life are not just things. They're people and places, memories and pictures. They're feelings and moments, and smiles and laughter.
This question is deep, but tell me, if you turned your phone off and didn't contact anybody for a week, who would be looking for you?
The greatest lesson I've learned in life is that letting go of something or someone is the truest form of love. There's a saying that people often use, and it goes like this: if you love someone or something, let it go, and if it was truly meant to be, they will come back to you. Now, while this saying may sound contradictory or even backwards to a lot of people going through these harsh feelings or heavy emotions, it actually is the most important and truthful thing to do. Because if you truly love somebody and you truly care for them, you want the best for them. Sometimes the best for somebody is not being with you. And sometimes the best for you is not being with somebody or not having something. Regardless of how much you love it, regardless of how much it made your life better, sometimes you have to learn that the best thing for both parties is to let go and just detach.
There'll be a moment when you realize you're 27 when yesterday you were just 17, and you wouldn't be able to tell how a decade passed away, and your life got divided into before and afters. The fury of youth will subdue, and nothing will really change, but everything will feel different when you look at old photographs and blurry videos taken on cheap mobile phones. Scents will remind you of childhood and certain friends you don't talk to anymore. Hangouts will become reunions, and Mom's burnt pie will become the best food you ever had. And I know on some days you won't be able to show anything of those 10 years. but I hope you remember to breathe and let go of the knot in your chest. I hope you go out in the sun and live a little, because tomorrow is 37. Each passing year feels like a silent farewell to the innocence of youth, leaving behind a trail of bittersweet longing for the days when life seemed simpler.
I have some questions I want to ask you. If you were in a room with everyone you ever met, who would be the one you look for? If someone gave you a box of everything you have ever lost, what is the first thing you would look for? If you had the chance to relive one day of your life, which day would it be and why? If you could receive a letter from your future self, what advice or insight would you hope to find in it? Imagine you have a chance to revisit a moment from your past. Which moment would you choose, and what would you do differently, if anything? If you had to define your purpose in one sentence, what would it be, and how does it influence the choices you make in your daily life?
I would recognize you in another lifetime entirely in different bodies, different times, and I would love you in all of this.